I got a crazy messed up video for you. I know, what a way to start a video, but no, seriously. I started this video 2 months ago and I'm just finishing it today. What I thought would be an easy install of the window chrome delete. I thought it would take me maybe about an hour. And quite frankly, I thought it'd be a pretty boring video. Turned out to be the biggest pain in the It was frustration after frustration, problem after problem. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this. Maybe it's just me. I was about to give up. And then I thought, you know, the whole idea of the lemon factor is to point out the lemons, whether it's a problem with the product or a problem with the install. At least from the start, it appeared as though it was going to be a big lemon. But I'm glad I hung in there because in the end, this turned out great. There's plenty of lessons learned. I'm glad I didn't give up because of the lemons I experienced. And because of that, I did learn a lot through the process, and I want to pass that on to you. I want to give you some tips on how to install the window trim chrome delete on our project car, this 2019 Honda Accord 2.0 Touring. So if you're interested in finding out, then stay tuned. So before we start, let me just be clear. I have never used vinyl before. I thought I'd get this stuff, I'd install it on a car like it was just a sticker, slap it on, be done, do it at lunchtime and walk away. And maybe for some of you, that's what you've experienced, but for me, it was a very different process and much more complicated than that. Now, if you go online, you go to other YouTube videos, there's a couple other videos out there that do take you through the process of installing, and some kind of from a how-to perspective. Others are just an individual going through and installing it. And you know what? I think they're fine, but I think they're a little misleading in the sense that it alludes to the fact that it's really easy. And at least for me, again, I didn't find it all that easy. So what I'd like to do is emphasize some of the things you can do to make sure that you don't run into those problems and you can have a much easier, cleaner install. So before I jump into the install, you're probably wondering which window chrome delete I purchased. So I did go with the pre-cut. I went with the Crux Motorsport window chrome delete package, and that ran about $50. I believe it was $50 shipped. I went with the gloss black so as to match the other elements, trim pieces within the window. So I like the fact that they were all pre-cut. Didn't have to worry about cutting it myself. You will have to do a little bit of cutting for the install, but you don't have to cut out the entire outline, which really saves a lot of time and energy. Oh, and by the way, just to be clear, the problems I ran into with the install had absolutely nothing to do with the product itself. It had everything to do with the installer, so me, my lack of experience. If you use this video to do the install and you found that it was helpful, hey, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, and leave a comment. I do these videos so that I can help someone else. This is a perfect example of a situation where I found a lot of problems. I found it difficult. I wish I had a video to go to, but you know what? I learned from it, and now I'm putting this video in place for you so you don't run into the same situation. So let's talk about some of the tools you're going to need to do the install. Obviously, you need the vinyl, whether you purchase it pre-cut or you buy the vinyl in strips and you're cutting it yourself. Biggest thing is to make sure you have a clean surface. So I highly recommend that you get some isopropyl alcohol. That way, not only does it clean, but it also removes any waxes or polishes. Anything that is stuck onto the trim pieces you're applying the vinyl to will show up. Lint-free microfiber towel. You don't want to be cleaning this off and having the towel leave lint behind. Again, that will be noticeable. You don't want that behind the vinyl piece itself. I also purchased a squeegee. I don't think that's absolutely necessary. I did find it helpful. I think it was $2.50, something around there, so not expensive. A sharp new razor blade. While these are cut to fit, There are some sections that you'll need to trim off just a little bit of the pieces, so make sure it's a new razor blade, a very sharp razor blade, so you can make some nice clean cuts. Also, some people may find it helpful to use a heat gun or a dryer. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but on some of the ends, when you get to the end and you're tucking it in, the heat gun or the dryer might help tuck that in. Next is tweezers, and that may sound odd, and I'll go through why. So what were some of the lessons learned that I learned the hard way? First and foremost was I tried doing this the beginning of April, and that was definitely too cold for the vinyl. After I tried and failed in April and then did a little bit of research, I did find out that a more warmer environment makes it a lot easier to apply the vinyl. The temperature that I've seen, again, I am by no means an expert here, but from what I've seen and then now installing it myself and being successful this time, it seems that 70 degrees is about the right temperature. So 72, 74. The other day I did one side of it, it was 80 degrees outside and it worked great. So the warmer the better. Do it on a day that is not overly windy. The big thing with the wind is you don't want the wind to blow dirt, dust onto the backside of the vinyl and have it stick to the backside, making a mess of things. Second piece is to thoroughly clean the trim pieces. And yes, I cleaned it, cleaned with soap and wiped it down, and still I didn't do a good enough job. Anything that is attached to the trim that you are putting that vinyl piece on, that you don't get off of that trim, will be magnified, 100-fold. You will see it on the backside. It will bulge on the vinyl itself. So with that said, clean your hands. Make sure your hands are clean, that you don't have anything on your hands that you can transfer to the sticky part, the backside of the vinyl wrap itself. Don't overstretch the vinyl. You don't need to stretch it at all. This vinyl is already pre-cut. It is sized a little larger than the pieces, so you're going to be doing some tucking, and on the ends, yeah, you're going to be cutting it off, but you don't need to stretch it. If you overstretch the vinyl, you do run the risk of leaving some stretch mark. You can overstretch it. Take your time. It is not a quick, simple install. Hey, I got an hour for lunch, I'm going to go slap those on. If you do that, you're going to get a less than ideal end product. So take your time. It is not hard, but it is meticulous. I think that's what I want to use, meticulous work. You have to be exact. Take your time, section by section, piece by piece. Don't rush it. So the other lesson, and this relates to the fact that I did get contaminants on the backside, and it goes back to when I mentioned the supplies, the tweezers. So twice, I don't know how this is possible, but twice I had eyelashes on the back of the vinyl. First time I laid it out, I was smoothing it out and there kept being a bump, and I thought the bump was just more of a crease, so I'd lift it up and try to stretch it out, and I couldn't stretch it out, only to find out that this little eyelash was on the back side. So what I use the tweezers for, and be careful, the tweezers can puncture or crease the vinyl, but I couldn't get the eyelash out, and instead I got some tweezers and was able to remove the eyelash. Other section. So I've done half of the car and I'm still doing the other half of the car. So let's take a look. So I'm going to take you through this strip. As you can see here, I simply laid it out on top. As you lay it down, just place it down, right? So I'm going to start from this side, make my way over here. Excess, I'll cut and I'll tuck. If you want, you can use a hairdryer, a heat gun. On this end, I am going to overlap this plastic here. I don't know if you can see that, only because I've done so everywhere else in the car, and I don't want that to stand out as being obviously different. So I'll overlap that. We'll cut a little piece off, or at least tuck it. I'll try to do so I don't have to cut. We'll tuck. And what I like to do is work my way in 3-4 inch increments, get that down, take the next section and work my way up. I will align the bottom first, and then I'll smooth it out over the top. And the reason for that is the trim here on the window, this is a pretty tight molding piece where on the top, there's a bigger space for you to tuck in the excess, and that's what I'm gonna do. So again, okay, I haven't tacked this down, but we have about 4 inches right here. So like I said, I overlapped a little bit on this side. We'll tuck it in. I lined it up on the bottom here. We're going to tuck that in, smooth it out from the bottom, smoothing it up using the squeegee. And then it's not tucked in yet, but then I'll tuck it in, and there's more space at the top to tuck in. So that's my preferred method. Now I'm going to tuck the top of it. And hopefully you saw that. So doing so with the squeegee, it pushed the vinyl right into that weather stripping here. So it totally disappeared on the top. That's why I start on the bottom, line up the bottom nicely, smooth it up to the top, and then you can tuck it into the top of the windowsill. If it bunches up like this, try not to stretch it. Just pull it down where it grabs that bubble, that crease, and then smooth it out there. So I'm going to do a little bit more, then I'll come back and tuck it in. That's good. Use a squeegee. Just not too much pressure. Just kind of tucking that under this weather strip here. And I'm gonna tuck it in the top here. So just like I did over here, I'm gonna tuck this in with the squeegee. Try to do it left-handed so you can see it. And I'm not dragging it too much. I don't want to pull on it so it starts crumbling up. I did it then because it was already tucked in. So there you go. Some of those other online videos seem to whip through it, and at least for me, I got the impression, oh, this is easy. I can get this done in no time at all. And quite frankly, it's not hard, but it does take a little bit of time. So I got this lined up down here. We'll get these bubbles out, bring it up. See, you got that crease right there. You're not tugging on this. You don't want to stretch it. Just get to the bubble, smooth it out. So I'll use my squeegee. Again, go along the lines. And up top, tuck it in. So we're at the end. You can see how much is left over. I said you really don't have to stretch it. We'll pull that to here, and I'll show you how to cut that off. Well, let's move on to the edge of our piece. So just make sure this is nice and smoothed out. And I'm gonna, I don't know, maybe an 1/8, 16th, whatever, a little bit here. So this is the edge. I'm not gonna cut it right at the edge. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna leave a little bit, and then I'm gonna use our squeegee and I'm gonna tuck that in. And now I'm just gonna use the squeegee to fold that over. And this is also where you can use a heat gun to heat it over. Don't drag it, just press it in. Press it on the top.